Hey friends, I've got a question for you. Do you feel guilty for the times when you feel afraid? If you're anything like me, you have seen bumper stickers or stickers on water bottles or t-shirts that have said faith over fear. As if those of us who have faith should never feel afraid and we should just let all of that go and let our faith shine. Well, in a perfect world, that would be great. But unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world. Unfortunately, there are times in our lives when we do feel afraid. And here I've got my cup of coffee today in the Word of God, and we're going to talk about this from Psalm chapter 56, verses 3 and 4. Now, here's what I need you to know about the context of Psalm 56. David wrote this when he was on the run from King Saul. Now, David had already been anointed to one day be on the throne, to be the ruler, but the time had not yet come. And what we see is that David is constantly on the run for his life from King Saul. Well, this one time he was on the run and he actually ran for refuge to the city of Gath. Now, the city of Gath was under Philistine control. And if you remember that word Philistine, you remember that David in his younger years had killed a Philistine giant named Goliath. So here he was, carrying this big sword of Goliath that he had won in this battle. And now he is going into Goliath's hometown and they capture him. This is where David is. You can imagine that he is filled with fear. You can imagine that he's wondering, God, what are you doing here? What is going to happen to me? And he says this in the middle of this circumstance. He says in verse 3, when I am afraid, not if I am afraid, but when I am afraid. Friends, you and I are going to be afraid from time to time, and we just need to acknowledge it. When I am afraid, I will trust in you. In God, whose word I praise, in God I trust. I will not be afraid. What can mortal man do to me? Friends, he is afraid and he is in the middle of his fear, and yet he is declaring his trust in God. Sometimes I think that I tell God, or I act like, God, if you'll get me through this thing, then I will trust you more. Then my faith in you will increase. But here, David is claiming faith and trust in God in a moment where he could be executed, in a moment that he could be beaten, in a moment that anything could happen to him. But he is holding on to trust in God in the middle of this mess, in the middle of his fear, where he is still afraid. He is choosing to proclaim his trust in God. Here's what we hear from David, kind of in a nutshell. I'm scared, but God, you see me. And God, you are faithful. You have made a promise to me. So I will trust you in the middle of my fear. And what we find is that when we choose to place our trust in God in the middle of our fear, our trust eventually does cause all of the fear to dissipate, to vanish. The faith and the trust that we have will eventually crowd out the fear and make it flee. So friends, when you are afraid, choose to trust in God. Remember that he is faithful so that you can trust him even more. Have a good day.